Yesterday we had the Aries new moon, but today is just as crucial. So I would ask you to pay attention and don't just pass this by expecting things to just work out. You woke up this morning expecting something to feel different, and it does not. Same ceiling, same sounds, same life sitting in the same place it was yesterday, and there is a specific quality to that sameness today that is not ordinary. It is almost suspicious, like the silence after something enormous has passed overhead and the air has not settled yet. That silence is not nothing. That silence is the most important sign you will receive today, because what the 7-planet new moon did to your life last night did not arrive as a dramatic, visible reversal of your circumstances. It did not rearrange your external world overnight. It arrived as a seed, and seeds do not announce themselves. They go underground. They crack open in the dark, and the ground goes quiet. And that quiet is not absence. That is the sound of roots growing. What I need to tell you about today is this. April 18th is the most dangerous day of this entire new moon cycle, not because something difficult is happening above you, because nothing visible is happening. And a specific trap of this Saturday is that people who just planted the most powerful intention of their year are going to look at their unchanged circumstances and conclude that nothing worked. Before you do that, stay with me. Comment "the roots are growing" below. This activates the energy of your intention and signifies to the universe your message. Let me tell you what is actually happening in your body right now. Because what you are feeling this morning has a precise name, and it is not disappointment, and it is not stagnation, it is integration. This entire week your nervous system has been processing something it has never processed before. Monday's fog dissolved the old picture. Tuesday's ignition sharpened the mind. Wednesday brought the wound into the light and held it there until it could finally be seen clearly. Thursday opened the channel. Friday fired 7 planets simultaneously through your system at the exact moment the new moon perfected. That is not a small amount of energy to move through a human body in 5 days, and the body, when it has genuinely received something of that magnitude, does not celebrate loudly the morning after. It goes quiet. It turns inward. It does the specific kind of work that happens below the level of conscious awareness, the updating, the incorporating, the slow and precise rewiring of the internal operating system that was running the old program. Integration is not nothing. It is not rest in the passive sense. It is the most important work of the entire cycle, and it happens without your involvement and without your permission. And it looks from the outside exactly like a quiet Saturday morning. The moon is still completing its final hours in Aries as you watch this, processing the last of what the stellium ignited. And at 11:59 this morning it crosses into Taurus, and when it does, everything changes. At 11:59 this morning the moon leaves Aries and enters Taurus. Feel that for a moment before I explain it. This is the first time since this entire sequence began that the moon moves into an earth sign. Since Monday, the emotional body of the sky has been sitting inside the fire of Aries, inside the fog, inside the ignition, inside the stellium, inside 7 planets pushing everything forward simultaneously. And now, for the first time all week, the moon steps onto solid ground. The quality of the afternoon is going to feel different from the quality of the morning. Not dramatically, subtly, a specific settling. The urgency that has been running through the week dropping by several degrees. The chest loosening slightly. The jaw unclenching. The specific physical sensation of something that has been moving very fast, finally being allowed to slow down and feel the ground beneath it. That is not the energy leaving. That is the energy landing. Taurus is the earth that receives what Aries initiates. Every beginning needs a ground to grow in. Every seed needs a soil that can hold it through the dark days before the first visible evidence of life appears. The moon entering Taurus today is the universe providing the exact quality of grounds that last night's intentions require. Not more fire, not more ignition, not more push. Earth, patience, the deep, unhurried, completely reliable holding of what has been planted. And also in Taurus today is Venus, the planet of self-worth, beauty, and abundance. And this afternoon, the moon moves into exact conjunction with her. The emotional body of the sky meeting the planet of worthiness in the sign of receiving. The universe is saying something specific today. You are allowed to want what you planted. You are allowed to receive it when it grows. At 4:32 this afternoon, something specific happens in the sky that most people will move through without noticing. Mercury in Aries forms an exact sextile to Pluto in Aquarius. Mercury is the planet of thought, communication, and the mind's ability to process information. Pluto is the planet of what is buried, what is hidden, what operates in the layers beneath the surface of what is visible. And when these two form a harmonious angle, the mind gains access to a layer of truth about its situation that it cannot access on ordinary days. In plain terms, something becomes visible this afternoon that you could not see before last night's new moon cleared the ground. It will not arrive as a revelation with a fanfare. It will arrive as a thought, a specific thought, weightier than the thoughts around it, that surfaces between 4 and 6 p.m. with a quality of certainty that does not feel generated by your own reasoning. It feels received, delivered, as if someone turned a light on in a room you had been navigating in the dark, and you can suddenly see exactly where everything is. For most people, this clarity falls into one of three categories: a truth about a relationship, either more aligned than you have been allowing yourself to believe, or less aligned than you have been pretending. Both versions are the same gift. Both are the new moon giving you accurate information to build the next chapter on. A truth about a direction, a confirmation that what you planted last night was correct, or a quiet, honest signal that the intention came from the wound rather than the healed ground. Neither verdict is a failure. Both are intelligence, or a truth about yourself. The last internal argument against beginning what you have been almost beginning, simply not being there anymore, dissolved by the clearing of this week, replaced by a specific quiet readiness that feels nothing like excitement and everything like certainty. When it arrives this afternoon, write it down before you analyze whether it is true. It is. A seed planted in good ground does not produce visible results on the day of planting. Not the next day, often not the day after that. The first thing a seed does after it is placed in the earth is not grow upward. It cracks open. It dissolves its own shell. It becomes for a brief period something that looks less like a seed and more like nothing at all. Formless, vulnerable, invisible to anything watching the surface for signs of progress. And in that invisible dissolving, something is happening that the surface will eventually depend on entirely. The seed is accessing the soil, extending roots downward, building the underground infrastructure that will support everything visible that comes after. What you set as intention last night inside a 7-planet new moon conjunct Chiron and a once-in-a-generation stellium is doing exactly that right now. It is not dormant, it is not waiting, it is not failing to respond to what you asked. It is cracking open, accessing the ground that this entire week prepared. The ground cleared by Monday's fog and hardened by Tuesday's ignition and healed by Wednesday's closing wound and enriched by Thursday's reception and fired by Friday's stellium. Ground that is being prepared with a precision and a depth that ordinary ground cannot match. And now the seed is in it, and the roots are extending, and the surface is quiet in the specific way that surfaces are always quiet, when the most important work is happening somewhere the eye cannot reach. There is a feeling that accompanies this if you are paying attention, not excitement, not relief, something quieter than both. A settled certainty that carries no doubt within it, the specific weight of something that is already true and has not yet become visible. If you can feel that today, beneath the ordinary surface of an ordinary Saturday, that feeling is the evidence. The roots are growing. Here's what nobody tells you about new moons. The day after is the most vulnerable point in the entire cycle. Not the day of. Not the weeks that follow. The day after, because the day of you are inside the energy and it carries you forward, and the intention feels real, and the ground feels charged, and the possibility feels close enough to touch. and then the day after arrives, and the energy has moved underground, and you are standing in the same circumstances you were standing in before. Same house, same bank account, same relationships, same recurring situation that you set an intention to change. And the specific voice that has been telling you nothing ever changes for you finds this moment irresistible because the evidence appears to support it. This is the moment most people undo what they planted. Not by doing anything dramatic, by doubting quietly, by having the conversation that tests whether the intention is working, by checking for results in a seed that has been in the ground for less than 24 hours, by looking at the unchanged surface of things and concluding that the planting did not take. Here's what I need you to understand about that. The 7-planet new moon did not change your circumstances overnight. It changed the direction of your life. Those are not the same thing. Direction changes are invisible for weeks, and sometimes months before the external world begins to reflect the internal shift that has already occurred. Your only job today is to not undo yesterday, not to force evidence, not to check for results, not to explain the intention to someone who will ask reasonable questions that your seed cannot yet answer. Simply protect it for one more day. The roots do not require your supervision, they require your patience. Here is the practical instruction for today, the specific things the sky is actually asking of you on April 18th that most astrology content will not tell you, because most astrology content is more interested in the dramatic days than in the days that determine whether the dramatic days actually produce anything. The first thing, rest. Not as a default or a consolation for a quiet day, as the active, intentional, specifically calibrated response to what yesterday initiated. The moon entering Taurus at noon is not coincidental timing. Taurus is the sign of the physical body, of sensory grounding, of the deep settling that allows genuine integration to complete. The universe built a rest day into the cycle immediately after its most concentrated initiatory event. Use it without guilt. Use it without the performance of productivity that the day after a big intention usually triggers. The second thing, when the moon conjuncts Venus in Taurus this afternoon, allow yourself something that is simply beautiful, not useful, not productive, not aimed at anything. A meal eaten slowly, music that does something physical to you, a walk that asks nothing of you in return. The moon conjunct Venus today is the sky's specific instruction to receive pleasure without justifying it. That is not indulgence. That is the practice. The third thing. In the late afternoon, when Mercury sextiles Pluto, pay attention to a single thought that arrives with unusual weight and unusual clarity, the kind that does not feel generated. It feels received. Write it down before you analyze it. Before you decide whether it is reasonable or realistic or the kind of thing you were allowed to want, it arrived for a reason. Write it down. The new moon planted its seed in a different house for every sign, what you are integrating today, what the quiet is doing specifically in your chart. And the one thing the sky is asking of you this Saturday is different, depending on where last night's stellium landed in your life. Here is yours. Aries. The new moon was in your first house, your identity, your body, the most fundamental territory in your entire chart. What was planted last night is not a goal or a project. It is a new relationship with who you are. The quiet today is the quiet of someone who has made a decision so deep it has not yet surfaced into language. You will not be able to explain what shifted to anyone who asks today, and that is correct. Do not try. Let it live in the body for one full day before the mind is asked to translate it. Your practice today is silence about the shift, not because it is not real, because it is too real to be handed to words yet. Taurus. The moon is entering your sign today. Of all 12 signs, you are the most physically attuned to what shifted last night, and the Taurus moon landing in your first house means the integration is happening directly in your body and your immediate sense of self. Notice today what feels lighter without explanation. Notice what feels complete without announcement. Those physical signals are the integration report, and they are more accurate than anything your mind will produce today. Trust your body entirely above your reasoning today. It knows before the mind does, and today it is speaking clearly. Gemini, the stellium planted its seed in your 11th house of community, belonging, and the people who are meant to walk the next chapter alongside you. The quiet today carries a question forming beneath it, not urgently, slowly and clearly. Who genuinely belongs in what is coming? Notice today who comes to mind without being prompted. Notice whose name arrives in the quiet moments between activities. That is not random. That is the new moon doing its first work in your chart. The intelligence arriving today about your soul community is more accurate than anything that arrived before Wednesday's womb closed. Receive it without acting on it yet. Cancer. Jupiter in your sign has been amplifying everything this week, and the new moon planted in your 10th house of career, public mission, and the contribution you came here to make. The quiet today has a specifically professional texture, a direction forming, a clarity about what the next chapter of your work actually looks like, beginning to emerge from the dissolved version of what it used to be. Do not rush this into announcements or conversations today. The seed in the 10th house needs to establish roots before it can survive public exposure. Your practice today is to sit with the professional intention privately and let it become more specific without sharing it. The roots need one more day of quiet before the light. Leo. Your 9th house of belief, expanded vision, and the philosophical ceiling on your life received the new moon seed. The quiet today is spacious. A specific old belief about what is available to someone like you is completing its dissolution, and you may not be able to identify precisely what it was. You will feel its absence as an unexpected spaciousness in your thinking. Where something used to press down and say not for you, there is simply nothing there today. That absence is not emptiness. That is the seed cracking open and the ceiling being gone. Notice the spaciousness. Breathe into it. Let it be larger than you are used to. Virgo. The new moon landed in your 8th house of deep transformation, shared resources, and the psychological contracts that govern your closest connections. Mercury sextile Pluto today is especially potent for Virgo because Mercury is your ruling planet. The late afternoon clarity arriving between 4 and 6 p.m. is specifically yours, and it is specifically about a dynamic in a close relationship or a long-standing pattern that you could not see clearly before this week cleared the ground. What arrives is not a decision. It is a seeing. Allow it to be seen without immediately converting it into a plan of action. Seeing is enough today. Libra. The new moon planted in your 7th house of significant partnership and one-on-one connection. The quiet today has a relational texture. Something about how you show up in relationship has shifted, and the people in your life have not yet seen the new version. Today is not the day to announce it. Today is the day to simply be it, quietly, without explanation or performance. The new version of you in relationship exists today as a fact before it exists as a conversation. Let it be a fact for one full day. The conversation comes when the roots are ready to support it. Scorpio. Your 6th house of daily life, physical body, and the invisible infrastructure of how you actually spend your energy received the new moon intention last night. The quiet today is bodily. Pay close attention to your physical energy between this morning and tonight. Something that usually costs you a specific amount of energy is not costing what it did. A routine that has been draining you has loosened its grip in a way that is subtle and unmistakable simultaneously. That is not coincidence. That is the 6th house seed already beginning its work in the underground of your daily life. Notice it. Name it internally. Let it become conscious so it can continue. Sagittarius, your 5th house of creative expression, authentic joy, and the unapologetic self ignited last night. The quiet today has a creative quality beneath it, a specific image or idea or direction circling just below the level of fully formed thought. Not ready to be caught yet, not ready to be named. Let it circle. The moon entering Taurus today gives creative patience as the specific available practice. Carry something to write with today, not to force the creative thought into existence, but to be ready when it arrives complete. It will arrive when it is ready. Your only job is to be present when it does. Capricorn. The new moon planted in your fourth house, the emotional foundation, the private world, the inner architecture of your life that you show to almost no one. The quiet today is the deepest of all 12 signs. Something has shifted in the most protected territory of your chart, and the surface of your life has not caught up yet. This is not failure. This is the specific way Capricorn's fourth house works. The internal shift happens long before the external world reflects it. What you feel today quietly and privately in the space between one ordinary activity and the next is the most important information you will receive all week. Protect it. Do not explain it to anyone today. Aquarius. Your third house of communication, voice, and the relationship between what you know and what you say received the new moon seed. The quiet today has a verbal quality. Something has been clarified in your thinking. A position you have been uncertain about has settled into something that feels like fact. A direction you have been circling has become obvious. Mercury sextile Pluto today activates your third house directly, and the late afternoon clarity is specifically yours. Write down the first words that arrive when the thought surfaces. Not the revised version, not the softened version. The first one. That is the seed speaking. Pisces, your second house of self-worth, and what you believe you deserve to receive in this lifetime got the new moon intention last night. The quiet today is worth related in the most specific sense. The standard has shifted internally, and the world has not yet reflected the new setting. Today your practice is to notice the moment something is offered, at less than what you now know you are worth, not to act on it dramatically. Simply to notice that a new standard exists and that it feels like a fact now rather than an aspiration. That noticing is the seed establishing its first roots. Let it happen without announcement. The world will catch up. Before the close, I want to take a moment here. This community has been present for every single day of this sequence. Monday's fog, Tuesday's ignition, Wednesday's wound, Thursday's transmission, Friday's stellium, and now today's quiet, Saturday morning integration. You showed up for all of it, not passively, with the kind of attention that changes what a week like this is capable of producing. That is not nothing. That is everything. If you are new here and you have not subscribed, do it now. Tomorrow, the sun enters Taurus and the entire energy of the month shifts into consolidation and grounding. What was planted this week begins receiving its first light. You do not want to miss what comes next. Drop your zodiac sign in the comments below. Here is what the silence of April 18th is actually doing. Every significant thing in the natural world builds in the dark before it becomes visible in the light. The oak tree lives inside the acorn in a form that nothing about the acorn suggests. The river carves the canyon over centuries before the canyon exists. The life that is being restructured right now in the underground of what yesterday's new moon planted has not yet produced a single piece of visible evidence. That is not because it is failing, that is because it is building correctly. The people who understand this, who protect the seed through the quiet days before it shows itself above ground, those people arrive at the full moon in 2 weeks standing inside a life that has already been quietly and completely restructured by what they planted last night. Not because they forced it, not because they checked on it every day and interrogated whether it was working, because they trusted the ground, because they let the roots grow without supervision. Today, the universe built something specific into the sky for you. The moon in Taurus settling into Earth, Venus holding the frequency of worthiness and receiving, Jupiter in Cancer expanding what is emotionally possible, Mercury sextile, Pluto delivering the first truth the cleared ground makes visible, all of it pointing toward the same instruction: rest. Not because there's nothing happening, Because the most important thing that has ever happened in your chart is happening right now, and it does not need your effort. It needs your trust. The fire of this week is complete. The earth is receiving, the roots are growing, and if you are still here, still watching, still holding what you planted last night without pulling it up to check whether it is working, you are doing the only thing today requires. That is enough, more than enough.